Now I'm going to put the Haaland captaincy disaster behind me in this video. And regardless of that, I still scored 70 points and I'm up to 21k overall. And in this video, I'm going to go through my team selection for game week 37. All right, we're going to start off then with a quick reminder as to how my team got on in game week 36. I'm not going to spend too long on this because in most of the team selection videos I make, there's usually some change, a player that hasn't played when I've made my transfer plans video, but just so happens this week all the games are actually finished on Sunday. So here's how my team got on. 70 points, up to 21k overall, fully stacked out in terms of returns in my defence in midfield. An 8-pointer for Areola against Man United. Clean sheet for Man City, scoring me points for both Guardiola and Ruben Diaz. A clean sheet and an assist for Munoz. An assist for Sarr, an assist for Rogers, 3 assists for my midfield, third being Mbumo. Goal for Kevin Schade, who I brought in just as a reminder my transfers last week. Salah to Schade and Marmoush to Haaland. Haaland is my captain, Isak and Mateta alongside him. Now, I'll quickly say what I did on my transfer plans video as well. With the information that we had at the time, right? Marmoush being on the bench, Liverpool appearing to be on the beach. I mean, I've literally just seen a picture of Arne Slot. I think he was at Ocean Beach in Ibiza, literally celebrating. There were girls holding up letters that spelt out champions behind him, right? If there's even the manager's on the beach for Liverpool, right? So I thought, oh, why not? You know, I don't really fancy Salah to do anything in the remaining weeks. Haaland's got what could have been the worst team in Premier League history for points. They're not now because they got the draw, but he was playing them. And I thought, what better opportunity? You know, and I was feeling it in my gut all week to do it. You know, who do I bring in for Salah was the only real question. I went for Schade, that obviously paid off. And yeah, I went for Haaland over transferred Marmoush out for Haaland. It just didn't pay off, but going through it again, I'd do it all over again. I don't regret the decision despite it not paying off. My bench, well, I decided to start Areola over Raya, which has obviously paid off. Murphy and Konsa both 5 points on my bench, but in hindsight, I still would have benched the two of them. I noticed Murphy's minutes were a bit of a mixed bag recently. Hasn't played a full 90 for like 5 or 6 weeks. And he had Chelsea, which I thought would be a more difficult fixture than it appeared to be. And then Konsa, I don't really rate the Aston Villa defence all that much. And to be honest, he scored lower points than any of my other defenders that started did. So I guess that's kind of decision justified. So again, just a quick recap of my team and how it's gotten on. All right, into the team selection then, and I've got one free transfer, 3.8 million in the bank. My defence at the moment looks like this. Raya and Saliba currently going in with double Arsenal defence against Newcastle, and it's a case of whether I want to have double Arsenal defence against Newcastle or whether I want to have double Man City defence against Bournemouth. I'm really close on the two. I think, in my opinion, the Arsenal defence is better than the Man City defence, but obviously Newcastle is a tougher fixture. In my mind, it's a tougher fixture than Bournemouth, so it kind of levels out. I might bring Ruben Diaz in instead of Saliba, but my decision so far, I think, is to start Saliba. And on top of that, we've got Konsa, who's facing Tottenham at home as well. There are a couple of clean sheets on the bounce in the Premier League, and Tottenham, well, they don't care about the Premier League anymore. They're totally focused on the Europa League finals. So the question is, who is the best centre-back to play in that Saliba spot? I think Raya's going to play. I'd rather play him than Areola. I think Guardiola's going to play. Hoping to see him again at left-back against Bournemouth. I don't think it's obviously a good fixture. And Munoz is going to play, but he obviously has the FA Cup final as well, as of course to Guardiola and Ruben Diaz. So maybe, with all that in mind, I should play Konsa instead. But I think I'm largely locked into this defence. I look at clean sheet odds coming up, right? One team I feel like I'm potentially missing out on in game week 37 is Everton. I don't have any Everton defensive coverage. They've got 42% clean sheet odds against Southampton. I think they probably do keep a clean sheet in that game. I can't really justify selling any of my defenders to bring in an Everton asset. So we've got clean sheet odds there for the next couple of weeks. Then I've also got a view of defenders' expected points according to Fantasy Football Hub. And well, I own 2 of the best defenders in the game for expected points by the looks of it. And I would actually say Munoz is right up there as one of the top defenders for expected points as well. Concert, who's got Tottenham, Man United in his next two. I mean, the same logic applies to Man United as it did to, well, actually, no, next week, the Europa League final will have been played. But even still, Man United just don't care about the Premier League, and they'll probably be somewhat, maybe somewhat celebrating the Europa League final should they win. So yeah, anyway, with all that in mind, and also the fact that I just don't see any defenders scoring enough points for it to be worth. I've got 2 transfers left this season, 2 free transfers left this season. Obviously, one this week, one next week. I just don't think it's worth using any of them on a defender. Onto the midfield then, I'm going to show you how it's looking at the moment. There's a couple, well, one potential player I could look to bring in. So Mbumo, Schade, Sarr and Rodgers are my current starting 4. And you can see that I've got Murphy on my bench who's playing Arsenal away from home. I like this 4, but I'm a little bit concerned about Sarr's minutes if he plays in the FA Cup final. I'm also just in general, I'm quite concerned about my entire team because I've got 6 players, you won't see, but I've got a couple of strikers that are playing in the FA Cup final as well. I've got a lot of players in my team that are in the FA Cup final, and I'm a little bit worried about what their minutes look like in the Premier League game, obviously, after that. Sarr, though, I think he's pretty good against Wolves, right? And of all the players at these like sub 6 million price point, I think the 3 that I've got in my team are probably the best. Rodgers, Sarr and Schade. I'm happy to have the 3 of them. Schade still hasn't completed a full 90 minutes in the Premier League. He scored 4 goals in his last 5 appearances. And he's still getting subbed before even the 80th minute mark at the moment. But I'm still happy to have him against Fulham, and same with Mbumo. There is one midfield player, though, that I am potentially considering. It's this guy, Bukayo Saka. I don't have an easy route to him for game week 37. See, I got 1 free transfer, 3.8 in the bank. The only way I could get him in is if I sell Brian Mbumo, and I don't really want to do that. He's got 2 good fixtures left, and he's obviously one of the best assets in the game, in my opinion. But what I could do is wait till next week until I get 2 free transfers, and then bring Saka in. And the reason I'm keen to bring Saka in, or looking at doing so, is because I think he's the best captain in game week 38. You know, Arsenal, you'd think are going to be playing hard right up until the end of the season, and they've got Southampton away. Yeah, he's a really attractive prospect in the game, I think. And his ownership in the top 100k and around my rank he's below 10%, and in the top 100k is 11.32%. So he's, most people say a differential is 10% or below, but a little bit of leeway. I think 11.32 is close enough. Yeah, I do like him as an option, especially for game week 38. So that's another player to bear in mind. But just looking at the budget I have available, number of transfers I've got, I just don't have the cash or the free transfers to bring him in. So we're going to have to wait on, I think, before making a change in my midfield this week. And yeah, no Saka for me this week. We'll consider it next, but right now I think I've got to stick with the midfield I have. And I'm a little bit concerned about no Salah. That is one thing I just wanted to add. It's got Brighton. Every man and their dog's still got him in their team. I obviously went rogue and brought in Haaland. So I'm a little bit concerned about what he could do against Brighton. But at the same time, Liverpool are pretty much on the beach. So yeah, can't do anything. Scared of Salah, and I do want to buy Saka at some point. All right then, onto the front line, and I think I could be making another transfer here. So I've got Haaland, Isak, and Mateta up front at the moment. Haaland, he was a disaster in game week 36, wasn't he? No doubt about it. But got Bournemouth at home and then Fulham after that. However, he does, of course, play in the FA Cup final, and that, of course, you'd think would impact his minutes. Hopefully that FA Cup final just stays to 90 minutes, doesn't go to extra time and penalties, and he only has like 90 minutes in his legs at the weekend. Because I think if that is the case, he's got a good chance of starting against Bournemouth. And then Fulham on the final day, I think he's a pretty good captaincy option there. Isak, he's got a tough fixture against Arsenal, but then finishes the season playing Everton, which is obviously a decent fixture. Newcastle probably having something to fight for till the end. It's really hard for me to get rid of Isak, even though his form has dropped off a little bit. And then Mateta, he's the one that I think I'm most likely to sell. He's dropped off the ball in terms of form. He's got the FA Cup final, and I'd question if he'll even start against Wolves. And then he's got Liverpool on the final day at Anfield, of course, the game that they're going to lift the trophy at. I believe that's the game they're going to lift the trophy at anyway. Yeah, interesting one. We'll see. We'll see exactly who I sell, because I think there's a case to sell all 3 of them. Obviously, Mateta and Isak in poor form. Haaland also in poor form, I guess. and also a minute's doubt alongside Mateta, of course. The player I'm looking to bring in is Ollie Watkins. I've just spoken about him on the differentials video, actually recorded shortly before this. I'm actually recording this video on Tuesday evening because there's no more football left to go this week. I figured I could go early, and I've got to take my car to the garage tomorrow morning when I usually record. So this is going out, well, it'll go out to members on Tuesday, be released to everyone on Wednesday. I'm potentially looking to bring Ollie Watkins in. 8.9 million, I can afford him. I can bring him in for any one of my other strikers. The thing is, I think I want to do so ensuring that I can also potentially afford to get Saka in. Oh, I think that's going to be hard. The only way I could bring Watkins in and get Saka for Game Week 38 is by selling Haaland. So yeah, lots to think about there, I suppose. How badly do I want Saka in Game Week 38? You know, how badly do I want to have who I think in my mind is the best captain? That's the question. And also, if I brought in Watkins, I think the Tottenham at home fixture is a genuine case to captain him. You know, Aston Villa will be playing for something right up until the end of the season, and Tottenham obviously just prioritising the Europa League. Yeah, could potentially bring in Ollie Watkins and captain him. But right now, with my team as it is, ooh, I just hit my mic out of pure excitement. I'm a little bit scared of a couple assets. Right? I'm definitely scared of Salah. I think he could hurt me this week if he does well. He will. If he does well, he'll definitely hurt me. And I'm also a little bit scared of Haaland's minutes. I just don't know what's going to happen with him in Game Week 37. At the moment, the armband's on him because, well, he's got the most expected points of anyone in my team. But I'm massively confident in it. You know, I don't like the thought of captaining a player I'm not even sure is going to get good minutes. But then, looking at that rest of that team, who else do I captain? You know, what other options do I have? And maybe that's, again, thinking back to the Watkins move. Maybe that's why I could bring in Watkins, because if he starts, I think he's a pretty decent captaincy option. So yeah, right now it's on Haaland. I reserve the right to change it on Friday's deadline stream. Obviously, the deadline's on Friday this week because the FA Cup final's happening. Splits up the Premier League. Yeah, I'm just a little bit worried about Haaland. Anyway, excuse me. It's on him at the moment. Things might change and I might make that transfer for Watkins, like I said. Anyway, that's my team. That's how I'm lining up at the moment. Let me know in the comments, though, if you think I should make any changes. All right. Well, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed that. Found it useful getting an insight into my thoughts around my team. Yeah, I'm a little bit scared going into this week without Salah, but I think I don't regret selling him. I definitely don't regret selling him. And if you enjoyed the video, please leave me a like rating. Like I said, if you've got any changes to suggest to my team, I'm all ears, to be honest. As long as you're polite about it, I'm happy to hear your opinion. If it's different to mine, just let me know in the comments politely. And yeah, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Goal to Goal channel, just there on your screen. Plenty more content coming your way right up until the end of Game Week 38. And I've got a couple of videos planned for over the summer too. I have worked out a little bit what I'm going to spend my summer doing now, which you might hear about on this channel sometime soon. Well, yeah, thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you in my next video.